Hello and welcome to the Larp Guide. In this video, I'll be looking at costume mistakes and giving you some advice on how you can avoid making them. Before I start, if you end up enjoying this video, then please consider subscribing to the channel and sharing this video within your Larp communities. Making these videos visible on the YouTube platform is very difficult due to Larp being such a niche hobby. So without the Larp community support and help, unfortunately, this channel will never reach its true potential. I also wanted to make a quick shout out and thank you to everyone who has subscribed and helped grow this channel so far. I'm planning on making a live video when I hit 500 subscribers to hopefully meet some of you and answer any of your questions you may have. Okay, sorry for all the pre-video messages. Let's get into it. Washable. It's amazing how many people don't factor this in when they're creating or purchasing a costume. Items with direct contact with your skin, known as base layers, must be washable, as even if you're attending a nice, cool inside event, your base layers, if not washed in between events, will start to smell. And trust me, nobody likes a smelly larper. When purchasing or creating a costume, it's worth looking into how you will go about washing the base layers. You definitely don't want to damage them or other clothing that you happen to put in the wash at the same time. Most online LARP stores can provide you this information when you make your purchase. And if you're creating your own items yourself, then it's worth looking into the material and dyes you are using to see the best way to wash them. I once created a wasteland costume with some weathered trousers that I scraped around in the mud and covered in dust. They looked great at the first event, but then became an absolute nightmare to wash. I ended up hand washing them and then redoing the weathering before each and every event. I have found over the years that I tend to use basic, easy to wash base layers on my costumes and then just add a little bit more detail to the other layers. Regarding your costume items that don't make up your base layers, I have found that a good hand wash and drying next to a dehumidifier works wonders on these. But my extra layers tend to be cloaks, jackets and tabards that often just end up coming back from an event smelling like a campfire. So always keep in mind to avoid this first costume mistake. Can this be washed? And how do I go about doing it? Durable. When creating or purchasing a costume, the durability of it is very important. There is nothing worse than in the middle of a battle, your trousers rip up the crotch or your cloak fastener just breaks off. Before each use of your costume items, just give them a quick check over and make sure that all the stitching is good and there are no tears along them. You will be surprised just how easy it is to prevent a major tear than to try and repair one. I personally bring some material patches and a needle and thread to a LARP event to patch up any damage that happens. Then I look at doing a more in-depth and reliable repair when I get home. This is due to me bursting the crotch out of more than one pair of LARP trousers in the past. I tend to find myself being the focus point for knockdown calls that see me rapidly hitting the deck and then having to quickly get up again mid-fight, normally resulting in strain around the trouser stitching and eventually a peep show for everybody nearby. Sorry for all those who've had to witness this. It's worth looking into what you plan on using a costume for and factoring this in when designing and purchasing each item. You tend to find the less combat you will be in, the more impractical a costume can be and fancy looking. Turning up to a battlefield with loads of beads, strings dangling around your arms and waist is a quick way to turn yourself into a bead dispenser, showering everybody nearby with your lovely multi-coloured shower. The same thought process can be used on your armour and accessories, making sure that your armour straps are in a good condition and that the clasps are working as they should. Check your pouch's stitching is still holding and there's not a big hole at the bottom. Once, by not checking a pouch, I lost an event's worth of in-character money plus my only lighter. It was a sad time. So, taking the time to give each item, no matter what, a quick check before use will 100% save you a ton of stress in the long run. And of course, purchasing and creating an item that is fit for its purpose will mean you should never have to deal with that mid-battle peep show. So, to avoid this mistake, make sure you factor in that durability when considering your costume selection. Functional. Wings, cloaks, back scabbards, long sleeves when firing a bow. The list can go on of things that have caused many a LARP player to scream at the sky as their amazing looking costume gets tangled up or in the way during that critical moment. I have a very embarrassing story when I was called to the front line of a shield wall to take out a very exposed mage that was standing arms spread, declaring the inevitable destruction of our forces. To only, while all the faces turned to watch me, catch the string of my bow in my brand new, cool-looking long-sleeve cloak, causing my arrow to go about 3 feet in front of me. To say I was embarrassed and a little bit devastated is an understatement. But ever since then, I have modified my costume when using a bow to have no sleeves on my bow-holding arm. I bet you that most, if not all, LARPers have stories of wardrobe malfunctions. So, to avoid having one of these for your own, think about what you are planning on using your costume for and that it is suitable. If you are planning on attending a meeting in a small tent and cramped rooms, maybe think about removing those 6-foot wings from your costume design, or that giant set of horns that will give you an additional 3 foot of height. Think about what you'll be doing during the LARP event to have fun and design or purchase a costume that will fit around that. It's also worth saying that the more you practice wearing something, the more functional it can become. I once had a costume that saw me walking around wearing American football shoulder pads covered in foam and fur. It made getting in and out of tents and doors problematic, but after a while and plenty of practice, I could make entering a tent a graceful and in some cases terrifying experience. If you are carrying weapons in scabbards, make sure that they are fit for the weapons they are holding and that they are nice and secure. There is nothing more embarrassing than mid-charge seeing all of your spare weapons come flying off around you and of course all of your open pouches spraying their contents on the ground. I would 100% sacrifice some of my costume's wow factor to be more practical and functional. So to avoid making this mistake, when you are creating or purchasing a costume, make sure that it will work with what you are doing and not against it. Safe. I think it goes without saying that no one attends a LARP event to cause harm or injury to someone else. But that awesome costume with that spiky shoulder guard or those antler horns that you have attached underneath your wig have the potential to do just that. When designing or purchasing a costume, it's 100% worth thinking about how it could affect others. For example, if you have attached antlers to the side of your head, maybe have the points facing inwards and not outwards. This could prevent catching someone in the eye as you duck under a tent flap into a busy area, or catching someone as you quickly turn your head to avoid a blow on the battlefield. You would be amazed over the years how many rusted, jagged-edged armors I have seen and warned people about. Most events don't allow physical contact between players, but when someone has been killed in the middle of a combat or made to fall over, you'll be amazed how many people will reach out to try and help pull that person back to their feet or drag them out of the front line to prevent them from being crushed. It's at this point that those sharp edges start to cut hands, legs, and in some cases, the wearer. Something else worth considering is long lengths of materials or chains. These have a tendency of getting wrapped up around yourself or others. I once saw a person do an unintentional backflip as they dodged out of the way of a monster, only to find their very fancy long chain holy symbol had become caught up in the monster's costume. Momentum was in the favour of the monster and the player was hurled backwards. As amazing as this elaborate chain looked, I felt it had no place on the battlefield due to just this reason. Luckily, no one was hurt, but it definitely had the potential to be a lot worse. So be safe. If you think something is dangerous, please leave it at home or in your tent. Spare. Your costume is amazing. You look fantastic as you walk across the battlefield and then whoop, splat. And you're now covered from head to toe in mud and you're soaking wet. I can't stress how important it is to have some backup base layers in your kit bag. Being able to change your top and your trousers out as your kit dries is an amazing feeling. It can also save you after that unintentional peep show as your trousers are beyond a quick patch job repair. Having a spare pair in your tent can be a real lifesaver. The thing to keep in mind is that there may be on-site traders that can sell you replacement kit if yours becomes unusable, but they may not always be there. Come prepared. When you are purchasing or creating your costume, think about grabbing some backup kit for that worst case situation. Also, if your character was to die at an event, you have a nice backup costume for them. And if you're attending an event where you are required or requested to monster, you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone and have your backup layers be used for this as well. I personally now pack 2 spare Larp style shirts along with a couple of pairs of Larp style trousers, just because I have been caught out in the past and shamefully had to wear inappropriate costume for the remainder of the event. So please factor in some spare base layers when budgeting for your costume to avoid this mistake. Incorrect footwear. Okay, this may not be considered part of your costume, as most events are very lax on footwear fitting the period and setting. But that's not because the event organisers want you to turn up wearing Crocs to a battle. It's because footwear is one of the most important purchases you can make for a LARP event. Having good support and comfort can be the difference between not thinking about your feet and hobbling from seat to seat because your feet are covered in blisters and your ankles are swollen up like balloons. Please invest in some good, suitable footwear. Keep the trainers and flip-flops for at home. You can, of course, find some great in-character looking footwear, but I would highly recommend that these are purchased after your amazing, comfortable and supportive choice. Pockets. Okay, my last bit of advice: when designing or purchasing your costume, think about how you can plan to carry your small items around with you. It may sound stupid, but you'll be surprised how much you miss having pockets when you're in the middle of the field and your pouch has just split, or you're looking for some place to keep your purse or wallet that just won't fit in that cool leather pouch you've just purchased. I like to keep my outer character's items in my pockets and then use my pouches to carry my in-character items. If you have ever been searched in the field by an eager player after they have just killed you in the dark, to be able to say everything I have in character is in my pouches can save both parties some embarrassment. For the record, this is not common, but it has come up a couple of times, for me anyway, so I thought it was worth mentioning. So that covers it. That's all my advice on costume mistakes and how to avoid them. If you are still here, thank you so much, and please pop in the comments, "I'm still here," so I can give you a personal shout out in one of my upcoming videos. I really appreciate your support. Love you all, and goodbye.